So welcome back. This morning we did an upgrade from the 4.8 controller series to the 5.0.6, and I just want to spend a couple minutes looking at the controller so you can familiarize yourself with it, and then we're going to jump into configuration videos a little later on. So if you've installed or upgraded, if you watch the upgrade video, if you have your Ubuntu server, your Debian server, and you download that package and you install it, and you don't have one to upgrade, then you will have installed the system. And then you can walk through the configuration, and there's another video that I have on that that's a version 4.8. Maybe I'll go back and do a version 5. It should be pretty similar, but go ahead and load up your version 5 and let's log in. And I just can't get over how slick this interface really is. When the lab is finished here in the next couple days, I do have a USG and a switch and some other access points and things, so I'll be able to populate this and show it off. This is your landing screen, and if I had a USG, the WAN and LAN would be green, and the throughput gauges would be lit up. You'd see some DPI information if I had it enabled. So when you log in, this is the first screen that you see. Up in the upper right hand corner, it's got the user that you're logged in as. You can set your preferences, edit your account, or log out. Current site is the site that you're logged into, and the refresh rate is how often the screen is going to refresh itself with the latest information. You can tell it to never refresh, set it to 15 seconds, or if you're impatient like me, you can hit the little recycle button, which refreshes when you click that. Over on the left hand side of this bar, you can see it shows us which version of the GUI this is. Then the UniFi logo, the Ubiquiti logo. Our first icon here is the dashboard. So anywhere you're at in the system, if you click this little dashboard icon, you're going to come back to this screen. The next icon down is the map, and what's really nice about the Ubiquiti controller is that you can have a JPEG or a PDF of your floor plan of your building, and you can set the size of this, and then you can look at things like coverage. So you can see here's my access point, and you can see the coverage. Now I don't have the aspect ratio set, or the map scale, so let's try that real quick. Feet, and we'll go here to a doorway, and we'll do, that's 3 feet. So if that's the scale, you can see the 2G coverage. Flip over to 5G. You can look at the details here. It's really nice. If you go to configure maps, you can add a map, and this is actually going to try to zoom in on my house with Google Maps. So you can do that. If you don't want to do that, like I said, you can upload. It's really nice. I do use this in production to kind of gauge some things when we're doing design. Your next icon down is going to be devices. So when you click on that, you will see all of the UniFi devices that are joined to this site. You can flip back and forth and isolate just between gateways and switches, APs, and phones, or you can view all the devices. You can see right here the How family is an AP Pro, the current version of software that's on, how long it's been up. You can locate. If you click the locate, the blue ring in the middle of that access point is going to pulse on and off so that you can find that device. And restart will cycle the device. If you click on the access point or device, it's going to bring up the properties of the device. You've got the restart icon, the locate. You can undock the property from the panel, or you can close it. And if you have multiple devices, if you keep clicking on them, it will stack them over here. But back to the details, you can see the MAC address, the IP address, the uptime, how many users are connected. You can get that uplink data, so you can see that this access point is connected at a gigabit full duplex. You can see how much data has been sent and received. You can look at the information for the NBG radio, channel, power, number of users, and then the NA radio, you get the same information, the number of users and guests. Here are our current users, and we have no guests currently, but I do use the guest system, and I'll show you a little bit of that. And then we get into the configuration. You can change the alias, which is what you see for device name. You can configure the radios. I still have that 5G radio set at auto. We're going to go ahead. We're going to change that. Change it to 36. I usually never let the controller do anything auto, just because when you're designing an RF layout, it's much better if you have your hand in it. Software can sometimes make changes that will come back to bite us later. So we can queue the change. You see we've got one pending change up here. We'll go through the rest of this. Do your chores first. SSID, the FBI van SSID, broadcasting on both radios. It is configured with DHCP. The band steering, this is where you're supposed to be able to steer devices towards the 5 gigahertz band. 5 gigahertz is much better for design. You don't get the distance, but you get the speed. So, and there's also not as many overlapping channels, so there's not as much interference. So your cell design is different with 5 gigahertz than it is the 2.4. Airtime fairness, I'm going to have to go read and see if this has been implemented yet. It says it's on, and I can't turn it off, so I don't know. I'll have to check the release notes for that. Custom upgrade, if there's a one-off piece of firmware that's not packaged with the controller, you can put the URL here and hit custom upgrade, and it will install that firmware on the device. So we've got our pending change, and we can come up here, we click pending change, and we can apply or discard. We're going to go ahead and apply. So next time that I do a video, I don't have to explain why that is on auto. So if we refresh this, you're going to see that it's sending the change. The status is reprovisioning. And see, now we're connected again. Our next icon down is the clients. So if we look at this, we can see the name of the device, the IP address, where it's connected, which access point or port, the activity, the down, the up, data transfer, and the uptime. And you can block or reconnect devices right from here. Now you're only seeing wireless guests at this point, but once the switch and the USG are up and going, we would see wired guests, clients. The statistics tab has some pretty good useful information, and you can go back to a certain amount of time. You can see what's the most active device, who's the most active client, all-time top client. You can see how much data has gone through a particular device. The graphs look really nice. This is really clean. And then you can clear the stats. You can change the day up here. You can change. We don't have DPI, so you can't see the traffic stats. You can only see what's going through this access point. You can take a look at insights. So right now we're looking at known clients for the last 24 hours, and we're looking at all. And so you can see every one that was known in the last 24 hours, the up and down. This user, Jeanette, was really busy. 14 gigs in 24 hours. For an iPhone, that's a lot of data. We can go down. The next icon is events. If we look, we can see the Nest, which is our thermostat, roamed from channel 1 to channel 36. My phone roamed from channel 1 to 36. My wife's phone roamed from channel 1 to 149. That was events. We can look at alerts. So if a device goes offline, that will create an alert status. We would see that in here. I don't know. I think there's some people actually using the internet, so I'm not going to unplug that access point right now. We'll do that in a later video. All the way at the bottom, there's the chat with us. This is the integrated Ubiquiti network support, and I've used it a couple times, and they have been really helpful. And if they couldn't help me right away, they did get me to somebody who could help. And next is the little cog. This is going to be a section, by itself. So let's get into that real quick. Go into the settings. First thing you're going to see for this site, you're going to see the name, the country, the time zone. This is all configurable. You can tell your controller to automatically upgrade firmware on your devices. If you've watched my other videos, you know I'm not a big fan of the auto upgrade features of anything when it comes to software, so I have that unchecked. We have status LEDs enabled. You can disable those. You can send alert emails, so when you get one of these alerts over here, it'll fire an email off. If you've got a USG, you can have it do a periodic speed test, and then that'll show up on your dashboard. You can enable the DPI, and I will tell you that I have tinkered with the DPI on the USG and the Edge router, and it is an awesome feature, and it's only getting better as Ubiquiti develops it more and more. We have the port remapping. A lot of people wanted to be able to use that port on the USG that is labeled voice over IP as a non-voice over IP port, so that's in beta here. The wireless connectivity or the uplink connectivity monitor will ping your default gateway to see if it's online, or you can have it go to a custom IP. Here you can enable SNMP and give it a community string. You've got remote logging, so you can enable remote syslog server, and you can fire logs from the controller out to another server. A lot of places do centralized logging. It's very common today, and so you can configure that here. Device authentication is the username and password that the controller is going to use to interact with the UniFi devices. The next option down is wireless networks. So you can see that I have two wireless networks. One is called FBI VAN, and it is a WPA pre-shared key, and it's WPA2. And do your chores first is open. Why would I have an open network? Because this is also a guest network. The VLAN, these both write on the default VLAN, so if I did have different networks that I wanted each of these to be attributed to, I could come in here and I could set that VLAN. And I do have another video on that. If you go out to the channel, there is a video that specifically talks about SSIDs and VLANs. It works the same. The controller looks different now, but the concept is still the same. So with do your chores first, it is open. However, my children have to have vouchers to get on the internet, and it works out pretty well. You can hide your SSID. I understand why it's there. Some people do it. I don't hide SSIDs. I label them purposefully because I will tell you that when I'm actually out sniffing wireless traffic, doing audits and things like that, when I see something hidden, it actually piques my curiosity, and I'm sure I'm not the only one that happens to. You can see the user group that I've got defined, and we're going to get to those user groups in a little bit. So the default user group for do your chores first is 1024, and I'll explain that. You can enable the unscheduled automatic power save delivery. Sometimes this will cause issues with voice over IP wireless phones. And then enable WLAN schedule. You can actually schedule this SSID to turn on and off different times, different days. We're going to go over to our networks. So if you do have a USG and you have a UniFi switch, anything with the network through a USG, and you need a VLAN, so a VLAN only, which is what we could do for 55, since we're not going to route that specifically through our USG. Is it a remote user VPN? So, is it a road warrior connecting from the outside? Site-to-site VPN. Do I have multiple sites that I want to connect? So if you've got a USG at 2 different sites and you want to create a VPN between them, it is so beautiful. It literally takes just a couple clicks. You come in, you do create network, you click site-to-site VPN, and then you choose the remote site that you want to connect to, and you hit save, and the controller and the USGs do the rest. You can create, you can use the VPN client. I'm assuming that you can do this as a PPTP client, so you can set your USG up to actually be a client. That is pretty nifty. I haven't played with that yet. I'm gonna have to get the USG hooked up now. Now I'm even more curious about that. On to our guest control. So you can see that I do have the guest portal enabled. You can do a lot of customization with this, and each site can have its own portal. And so right now I'm just using the hotspot. You can have no authentication. You can require just a simple password. You could hand this off to an external portal server like a Chili Spot server. For the landing page, you can redirect to the original URL the person was going to, but I forced my kids to go to my YouTube channel. You also do a redirect using hostname, and then further down, this is where you get into the portal customization, and under hotspot you can see where I just have vouchers enabled. I'm not going to show you the hotspot manager on this because it does have some, well, you know what, I'm going to show you. Let's see. So you can see that there are no guests logged in. You can see if I had somebody actually paying for internet, that would be there. Here are the vouchers, and when you see this video, the codes are actually going to be blanked out, but you can see that there's a lot of one-time use vouchers for 15 minutes, so they may earn multiple 15-minute vouchers. There are some vouchers further down that are half-hour, 1 hour, 1 week vouchers. And then there are other operators. You can see Mom is an operator. Her password is note, and this is Mom. So Mom can log in and create vouchers. If we wanted to take payment, we could enable that, and you can use PayPal, PayPal Pro, or Stripe. And then our access control is here, so if someone is logged in as a guest, they cannot access these subnets. So in this pre-authorization access, it says enable pre-authorization access to allow guests who have not yet authenticated to access specific subnets. So before they're even authenticated, you can control what subnets they're allowed to visit. So that's pretty nifty. So then we're going to come down here to admins. This is where you can create and revoke admin privilege. Those user groups I talked about earlier are actually bandwidth limiting groups. So you can see the one called parents. When you see this -1 and -1, that actually denotes that there is no speed limit. So anyone in the parents group, and you can probably guess who that is, can go as fast as they want. These other groups, I've got the nice dial-up group, so I very rarely have to use that. The 1024 kilobits down, 512 up is the most popular package. There is a little bit of a faster package. If my son is going to game, he gets basically 2 meg symmetrical. It's really easy to create a new group, and then you limit it, and you can use the selector. 6 kilobits per second. This would be torture. Like, your device would be connected and would be doing nothing. Well, it would be trying to do something, but I can't even imagine. I mean, you might as well send a carrier pigeon. The next item in our settings list is the controller. You can see the controller hostname IP. You can override the inform host in your devices with the hostname IP. we can make the controller discoverable on a layer 2 network. So if you're using layer 2 discovery instead of layer 3, so if everything is in the same layer 2 network, in the same switch, if I just have a simple switch and everything is just plugged in, the devices will be able to discover the controller on that network. We can talk about who can actually get into support messaging, so you can have all users be able to get into that live support. And then mail server, if you want to be able to get alerts, if you want to be able to set up admins and things like that, you're going to have to be able to send email out from this server, and this is where you set those settings. I am going to blank out this information because I do have my mail server info in there, but it does work. The next item down is cloud access. This is where you can link up to the Ubiquiti server and access this controller from anywhere, even apparently if it's behind a firewall. I haven't done this yet, but I know this is a really popular access option with the cloud key, which I have one of those on the way, and so we will play with that when it comes in. The maintenance tab, excuse me. The maintenance tab is something you should really get used to. It's got a lot of useful information. It shows us the current version of the controller. Some people don't know what version of the controller they're running. It is in the maintenance tab. We can talk about what kind of logging, what levels of logs we want to retain. Historical data prevention. Now, you used to have to prune the database manually, but it looks like they've added an automatic option. So we can tell it after 7 days to automatically do that, or it will cut that off, I'm assuming. I haven't played with this yet. If you go out and to the community.ubnt.com site, you'll see a lot about database pruning and scripts and things that are available out there. What happens if we click this button? Compact database. Are you sure that you want to compact the database? There could be service interrupts during the process. Okay, we'll do it and see what happens. And it's done. So we'll tell it that we only want to keep 30 days. So after 30 days, it should clean the database. That's my assumption. If anybody out there in radio land knows any different, please let me know. Backup data retention. This is when I tell you to make a backup. You can come here and make a backup, but it will also download some other data with it. So 7 days, we're going to download a backup of this, and there it is. There's our backup. So now if anything happens and I need to restore to this point with 7 days of information, it's there. So I can restore that same file. We can download the support info. If Ubiquiti ever asked you for that, click that button. And then the system config. This is awesome. This is one of these screens where they're kind of giving you a lot of information, a lot of useful information in a really nice, easy to read format. And I mean, it's just right there. I really commend Ubiquiti for the work they've done on this. So that's our high-level overview. We will be getting into more configuration videos here in the near future. If you've got any questions, post them below. Please give a thumbs up. Please subscribe, and I hope you'll return for the next video.